Hello and welcome back to my series of videos on setting up your Synology NAS with DSM-7 right the very first time. In today's video we're going to be looking at Plex Media Server. It's a very popular reason a lot of you buy Synology's Disk Station series, and in today's video I'm going to walk you through each step in setting up your Plex Media Server NAS with DSM-7. Now before we go any further, it's worth remembering that there have been multiple parts in the series before this, and a lot of the features and functionality of Synology NAS systems I've already covered, and although I'm going to touch on a lot of them here, I'm not going to go into them in too much detail. The reason being is a lot of you may have watched those videos already and therefore are already up to this point. But if you don't understand any of the earlier bits in this video about file structure, user accounts and privileges, then I do recommend going back and watching parts 1 and 2 in this series, as I will go into more detail. But first and foremost, what we want to do is head into File Station. Now in File Station we want to go ahead and upload all of our data onto the NAS. Maybe you've already done that, and if you have, you can skip this step. But if you haven't, here's what you need to do. The first thing you need to do is either create a folder in one of the existing shared folders on your NAS. Alternatively, you can go ahead and create a brand new shared folder by clicking Create and Create New Shared Folder. You can give this new shared folder a name, such as Plex, and then from there you can give it a recycle bin or more. Go ahead and create that folder if you choose. Alternatively, you can just go ahead and use the existing folder structure if you prefer. I've already uploaded and added my data, but if you do go ahead and create a shared folder, do remember that it's very important that you give access to this folder with the account that you're going to use for the setup of Plex Media Server. By that, what I mean is, whatever account you're using with DSM-7 right now to set up Plex Media Server for the first time, make sure that user has either read-only or read and write access to this folder. In this case, I'm going to give access to both the admin and my secondary admin account here to have access to that folder. Go ahead and click Apply. Again, if you are using an existing shared folder, do make sure you've got access to it. The next thing you need to do before you continue with the installation is head up into the main menu and then go into the control panel. In the control panel, find the option for users and groups. Within users and groups, make sure you select the user that you're going to be utilizing again for this installation. In my case, this admin group here. We can go ahead and edit that account. And what we want to do is make sure on here that we can see the list of applications and services that we're allowing access to for this. And do bear in mind there are lots of different options here that we'll be revisiting in a brief while that will become a lot clearer later on. So from this point we've got groups, we've got advanced, and now we can go into the App Center. Head into the Application Center here, and then under Beta Packages, currently on DSM-7, you will find Plex Media Server. Next thing you need to do is select Join Beta, as right now Plex Media Server is still not completely out of its stages of near completion and readiness for DSM-7. Soon this will be available in the Standard Package Center, but for now, go into the Beta Packages and join the beta. The installation of some beta packages is slightly different to those of traditional packages, and this is because Synology hasn't fully adapted and created preset default pathways for this application on their platform. Consequently, unlike a lot of the applications you've installed previously on your Plex Media, on your Synology NAS with DSM-7, you will be asked to set up a few things manually, which will happen as soon as the app has been downloaded and fully installed. Let's fast forward to the completion of the download and the initial installation. Now it's finished completely downloading, we can carry on walking through the main installation. As you can see, you have to choose whether you want to go for the optional name of a shared folder where Plex Media Server can write its files. Now this is going to be important because this is going to be where Plex creates log files of its utility that the Synology NAS can utilize. If you leave it blank, then what will happen is it will use the traditional basic folder structure and the main volume there on the NAS. But if you want these log files to be somewhere more specific, you're going to need to write that there. Otherwise, click Next to continue. Next up, before we go any further, it's important that you give Plex, the application, access to not only the directory for the logs, but the media itself. In order to do this, and before you click Done, head up to the top of the screen, back into the control panel. From the control panel, you need to go into the Shared Folders area, where a brand new folder will have been created. This is the folder marked Plex. Click it once, and then click the Edit button at the top. From here, scroll over to the Permissions tab and again go to the Local Users tab here, and this time select System Internal User. If you scroll down, a new System Internal User will be available, known as Plex Media Server, as you see there. Make sure this user has read-write access. Click there and then go ahead and click Save. This gives the Plex System Internal User account the ability to access that folder, and then from there you can go ahead and click Done. As you can see, things have changed with regards to installation within Plex Media Server and Synology. In order for you to access the contents of those shared folders where your media lives, you will have to grant the Plex Media Server application in the background access to some of those shared folders. So now you have to go back into the control panel and once again grant edit and go ahead and give it access now to the shared folder where your data lives, all your TV shows and more. Repeating the steps from earlier, but this time allowing it to have access to not only the Plex shared folder, but this time heading over to wherever the folder is that the media for your NAS lives. In my case, I placed it inside the share test folder. But if you created any new folders, they will appear here. So go ahead and allow access to that folder. Access to that folder can be easily granted by selecting the folder, selecting Edit, then go ahead over to the Permissions tab, once again System Internal User, and give the Plex Media Server access via read and write to that collection. You can get away with read-only access, but you may be storing logs or saving metadata linked directly with those files that you want to keep in the same folders. Go ahead and click Save. So again, whether you created the folder that was Plex Media Server yourself and then put the media inside, or you went ahead and created your own folder earlier which has got the media inside, now the Plex application that's stored on your Synology NAS has access to it. Go ahead when you're ready and click OK to continue with the installation. As you can see, Plex Media Server is now listed as an available app here on the list of the Package Center applications. Indeed, if you choose to, you can go back to the main menu and you'll find Plex Media Server available. When you're ready to start creating your Plex Media Server account, click this button. Whether you're utilizing an existing Plex Media Server account or you're creating a brand new one, the next steps are mostly the same. Go ahead and click that app. It will open in a brand new tab and it will ask you to connect your Plex Media Server account here with the NAS in question, as well as adding media or creating different applications and installing the applications onto your different client hardware. Bear in mind, if you're not seeing this screen, chances are you're not logged into a Plex Media Server account. And prior to this screen, you may have been asked to create an account or to enter the login details for your existing account, whereupon this screen should greet you. For now, go ahead and click Got It. If you're utilizing a Plex Pass account, it will appear here and not give you the offer of signing up for Plex Pass. Alternatively, you can go ahead and add one now. As you can see, the NAS has been found on the server network. On top of that, we can change the name of the NAS if we choose, or keep the existing one that we have. If we plan on accessing our Plex Media Server remotely, via the internet, if we're on holiday, whether on the commute or more, go ahead and tick this box, as it will allow your client device that's using the internet far away to connect with the Plex.tv account, which in turn will then communicate with your NAS. Go ahead and tick that if that sounds good to you. Otherwise, later in the video, I'll show you how to set up access to your Plex Media Server over DLNA. Then click Next. Next, we need to add to our media library. This is going to be the media that lives on our NAS that Plex is going to index and then scrape metadata for. Go ahead and click Add Library. First, we're going to start with films. After we selected films, go ahead and select Add Folder. Once you click the Browse for Media folder, this will give you access for Plex to those shared folders that we created earlier. Go ahead and click this button. As you can see, if we scroll down, multiple volumes are now visible to us, and inside here we'll be able to find our shared folder that I gave access to earlier. As we can see as I scroll through, this is where I've placed my media. Do bear in mind that where you've placed the media and which shared folders you created will differ depending on your own personal setup. For me, I'm going to select the movies folder, bearing in mind that you do not need to select the individual movie folders. You just need to select the parent directory, then click Add. After that, in the Advanced tab, there'll be lots of options for setting up this particular media collection the right way. Whether you're a Plex Pass holder or not, there will be multiple options open to you on how it can be displayed. Whether that's going to be utilising different scraped metadata, different media resources, trailers, information on actors and more, some of which are locked behind the paid Premium Pass and some absolutely free and included in the standard Plex no payment account. When you're ready, click Add Library. When you're ready, start adding further libraries as you see fit. Each one of these libraries you will need to find manually on the existing folder structure of your NAS, and do bear in mind while you're doing this that each time you add a different kind of library, different options for metadata scraping will appear. So for example, in TV shows, the settings are slightly different, utilising a different source for the data, in this case instead of IMDb, using the TV database, and further information as you scroll down. Go ahead and add library. Same goes for if you want to add music. Repeat the exact same steps that we've done up to this point, find all that information and then configure the scraping of metadata and library information that is best suited to your own library and how you want your Plex Media Server library to appear. Go ahead and add those. If you want to add multiple libraries, such as multiple film libraries, or create ones for different genres, you can create multiple libraries all here, which can then be displayed for access to you and your friends and family on this Plex Media Server NAS with DSM-7. When you're ready, click Next. As you can see, it's making recommendations of if you want to download the tools that you can install on your TV, tablet, phone, PS5, Fire Stick, Roku and more, but bear in mind almost all of these devices have app centers that allow you to download these tools anyway from their respective app centers. So you can download them manually and install them, or just go onto those individual devices and download Plex and log into your account. When you're ready, click Done. You should now be greeted by your own Plex Media server with the libraries being created and metadata being scraped in the background. If you don't see this screen, simply go ahead and scroll to the bottom where you'll be given the option to have a look at the available servers. Just select the More tab at the bottom and it will allow you to see your Plex Media server. If you're connected to multiple servers like I am, then all of these servers will be listed here. And as you can see, this one here in the middle is the DS920. It's already started beginning to scrape this metadata. In the event that it hasn't started scraping the metadata, or that the information is wrong, you can always go into individual libraries like so. So if we go to the TV Programs tab here, and we can scan the local library again, or manage the library, refresh all the metadata, or edit it and change the source of some of the information. So for example, even though we're using the TV database, we can change it out for personal media shows or the movie database if we choose. Again, if we click Save, we can then choose to refresh that data as we see fit, just in case there are better sources for that metadata that you need. On top of that, if you head into each of the individual tabs, for example, here we're looking at the Movies tab, we can go ahead and have a look and see that not only in that short amount of time has the cover art for this particular movie been found, but so is the description, the reviews, the casting, the actors, the reviews, and the extra information if you're a Plex Pass holder. A lot of this information towards the bottom is only linked towards Plex Premium account holders, but the majority of the metadata scraping is available straight away off the bat. And again, you can go ahead and change any of those options, as well as adding further information and more libraries as you see fit. If you want to choose more libraries, go ahead and click the three dots next to the name of your NAS, and then from here you can go ahead and play with some of the settings in the background. Select the settings menu to have a look at the layout and setup of your Plex Media Server NAS on your DSM-7 Synology. You can go ahead and look at the user information on the dashboard. You can scroll down and decide whether you want to utilize transcoding, which is when a file is changed in shape, format, and more in order to be better accessible to the client hardware. So if you're accessing a file via the internet, you may want transcoding to take place to reshape the file on more limited data connections, or if you're using a device like a mobile phone that doesn't need to watch some high-end 4K 100 megabit media. Bear in mind though that you can only have software transcoding, otherwise known as automatic, on the free service. If you want to take advantage of real transcoding, you're going to need a Plex pass, and then select the options that best suit your needs. Now, if you don't plan on utilizing transcoding or indeed accessing remotely via the internet, scroll down to the option for DLNA. This means that you can not only access your Plex Media Server with the Plex client, but by ticking this box here, it will make the contents of your Plex Media Server and the libraries accessible over basic DLNA. So that means you can access your Plex Media Server on devices that you can't even install apps on at all. It makes Plex Media Server considerably more accessible, and even though the steps to install your Plex Media Server on a Synology NAS with DSM-7 are more complex than they used to be, they're still not too tough. And there you go. That's how to set up Plex Media Server on your Synology NAS. Before we go, I will remind you that a lot of the time when you see an application available on the Synology App Center, they may not provide the latest updated versions on third-party applications. So when you do install Plex, it's highly recommended that, particularly after the first time, that you head into the settings menu of your server, like so, going into manage server and settings again, and then from there you can look at if there have been any updates to Plex Media Server on your NAS. There's lots of options such as checking plugins, library, background data and more, and you can find out more about the server as well as a lot of the advanced options and checking if there's an update available by opening those options. And as you can see, a new version is available. If you want to get that new version, you're going to have to click install manually. It will then download this new version of Plex Media Server here, which as it downloads in the background, you need to head back over to your Synology NAS. On that Synology NAS, within the package center, you need to go to the manual install tab here at the top right. Once you select that, you will be invited to upload a file from your local PC or Mac system and onto the Synology NAS, and then install it. So as we wait for that installation to complete, the download to complete, what we'll do is we'll upload that file onto our Synology NAS and update Plex Media Server. We can see that it's now finished that file as it completes it there. So on the NAS, we click Browse, head over to our Downloads folder, and in that Downloads folder, find the file that we've downloaded. Make sure it's an SPK file, which is a Synology installation file. Go ahead and click Open, and then click Next. As you can see, as this is a third-party developer application unseen by Synology, they may not verify it, so do bear in mind that you are still utilizing a third-party application in Plex that Synology hasn't fully signed off on, hence why it's still in beta. So if you're okay to proceed, click Agree, and then click Next to continue the installation. As you can see, it'll ask you to confirm the settings, and this time you won't need to go through the rigmarole of permissions and shared folders, as you've already done that. All you're doing is updating Plex Media Server. Once this is installed, it will shut down the Plex Media Server that's currently running, update the app, and the new version of Plex Media Server will be good to go. All you have to do is open Plex Media Server as normal, and then you'll be able to access it. As you can see, it is warning you that it still needs permissions to access all of those folders, but we've already done that, so we can ignore this message. And as you can see, Plex Media Server will now be completed, and we can go ahead, head back into the installation, and there's Plex Media Server. You may notice on the Application Center that if you revert and go back to those available applications in the beta area, that Plex Media Server may have reappeared with the Join Beta option. That's because now you're using a newer version of Plex Media Server. But don't fret, Plex Media Server is most certainly installed. It's merely restarting now since the update. If we go in, we can head over to go back into the option, closing the tab from earlier, head in, select Plex Media Server again, and this time Plex Media Server will reopen in this new version. Everything's left off where you were before, you just happen to be on a newer version of Plex. And there you have it. That has been how to install Plex Media Server and set up your Plex Media Server for the first time on a Synology DSM-7 right the first time. If you want to learn more, do click like to let me know you enjoyed this video, and subscribe, as it helps me understand what people want to know about and also keeps you informed about new videos for both Synology, DSM-7, Plex and more. And of course, if you want help with setting up your Plex Media Server NAS, or indeed buying any data storage or network equipment and just need a few bits of help, use the free advice section over on NAS Compares, linked in the description. It's manned by two humans, me and Eddie the web guy. We answer every email, and we don't do anything with your email address. We just use them to answer your queries unbiased. There's a donate button there. It'd be great if you use it, but you can ignore it. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.